Hi, it's Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse, Frugally, and I have today 17 different stools. I think stools are one of the most versatile and fun and easy DIYs to do, so I am hoping to inspire you to get creative and make something for your own home that is easy, especially if you're a beginner. I am going to start with this adorable white stool that I picked up for $1, and I am just going to go ahead and paint over it with some white chalk paint. Even though it's already white, I did want to freshen the paint up. And then once that dried, I took out some painter's tape and a pretty blue color called Nautical by Folk Art to give this a coastal feel. I just found center and taped 2 pieces on either side of the center and just painted a simple stripe down that and then peeled the tape off. And then once that dried, I put on 2 small pinstripe size stripes on either side of that, sanded over that when that was dry to give that a more distressed look. And then I took out the Rust-Oleum spray clear finish and I distressed the edges first because I like the distressed look, and then just clear coated that entire thing with that clear coat. And that is so simple and easy to recreate in any color that you like. And this goes pretty well with my kitchen. But I did take another yard sale find for $1. I picked up this stool. That's the thing I love about recreating stools. You can make tables, you can make stools, you can use them for a number of different things, risers, and they're cheap and easy to find. Before I continue on today's collaboration, What Would You Make is a monthly collab hosted by Brenda and Christine, and this month their special guest host is Zaina at OK at Home DIY. Their channels as well as the playlist will be in the description box for you to check out. So this one I used the chalk paint called Grotto, and I painted the white legs in this color, and I left the top in the neutral tone that it was. And then once I had that green done, I took some sandpaper and I distressed back to the white so that some of that white would pop through. Again, on this one, I wanted to have more of a coastal feel, and I did the same procedure with the tape and the green paint, adding those pin stripes on the top, or grain sack stripes on the top of the seat, making sure to go around the edges of the top because I think that really makes a finished look. And then once that was done, I added some white paint in the center of this one to give that white on the legs a chance to pop through. In this one, I finished in a white wax, covering that and then wiping that back with a cloth to have that protect the chalk paint and also feed into that coastal feel. So I think that these two came out really lovely for that coastal feel. But now onto a modern farmhouse maybe, or vintage look with this pair. Now, these 2 were left at the dump on the good table area, and obviously from the same individual, even though they have 2 different tops, 2 different color woods, 2 different kind of woods, actually. So I sanded them to do my best to try to match it, and I did pretty well, but it took several coats of stain and wax. And then after I sanded that down and waxed those several times, I took them outside and I used an Annie Sloan blue color that is Neapolitan and painted them. Now it's a very bright blue, much brighter than I would typically use in my home, but I had an idea to darken that, so I went ahead and finished the both of those in that beautiful blue color. And then I took out the dark antiquing wax and waxed everything, going over the blue paint to really darken that up and richen it up and see if I could make it match more like the blue that I have in the hutch of my kitchen. And so I love it against my island and decided to keep these two pieces because I think that they did come out really nice and very close, not perfect, but very close for the color that I was looking for in my kitchen. So I would have to say these two are some of my favorites that I have done. They're not exactly the, same color, but very, very close. So that is taking me on to these beauties. They are absolutely adorable already, especially if you had a fun schoolroom or playroom. But I was doing Farmhouse, and I did pay $3 each at Goodwill for these, and they are, quite frankly, adorable. But I wanted to make something with the IOD stamps that I had and to make this very farmhouse. So I took them outside and I sprayed them black on the base. And then I covered each of the tops in a white linen chalk paint, giving them several coats to cover over those vibrant colors. And then once these were completely dry, then I took out the farmhouse stamps that I got from the IOD collection, and just using some black Stays-On ink, I inked up those stamps, and on each of the seats of these stools, I stamped one of these animals. So a little sheep and a little cow and the rabbit. And then once these were, the 8 Stays-On ink was dry, I took out the letter stamps and I stamped on the words to go underneath each one of these animals. And then once again, when these were finished, I used a spray clear matte Rust-Oleum finish to protect the seat tops as well as the paint. And one thing I really like to do is to cut a stool in half, and that way you can use the top half as a small table or a small stool, and then you can use the bottom half for its legs. So on this particular one, once we cut this in half, I painted the base black, and then I needed to put something on the top of it for a table, and so I decided instead of a tabletop, as I have done in some of the future ones, as you will see, I would use a cheese box that I had paid $8 or $9 for a couple years ago at an antique store, because I thought this would be a great storage beside the couch. You could put a blanket in it, you could put the remotes in it, you could put books or any clutter that you don't want to have out. And I did go back to the grain sack pinstriping on this particular one, but obviously there are many other options, which I will do a few of in the rest of this video. But that is just screwed on to the legs, and here it is. And I think it is a very clever option with a blanket in it or whatever. And then here are a couple of stools that I picked up at a yard sale for I think $1 a piece. And again, these are phenomenal to cut down and to use for two separate creations. My husband put that on the saw table and cut that in half for me, and so I am going to leave the top natural because I really love this color. I did prep sand, and then I did paint the legs of this one with the Rust-Oleum black spray paint. And then once I have that completely finished, I want to take a stamp, an IOD stamp, and I want to pull out that more It's still farmhouse, but I think it has just a little bit more of maybe a French country feel by adding a stamp over that stripe. And then to darken that beautiful wood, I want to use the antique wax and because it's a beautiful light color, but I want it to be a little bit more rustic feeling. So once that stamp is on there and everything is good and dry, because you don't want to wax over wet ink, then you can sand if you want to sand to distress any of that, and then go ahead and finish that either with a clear wax or a colored wax or a clear coat. Then I'm left with the other half of the stool. So here are some ideas. Just popping a piece of wood on top of one and making a table. Very, very simple. And we did use it like that for a little bit of time beside the bed table. And then I had decided that I wanted to go ahead and finish that off in a different style. So I sanded the tabletop because I love the color of the wood under it. I wasn't crazy about the orange tones. Took out the Kindest Regards stamp, stamped over the top of the wood with just some black ink. I added some beautiful transfers, and then I went ahead and just waxed that so it has a pretty rich brown color, but still has sort of a shabby chic feel to it. And I love this table so much more than when it was just plain. And then here's one with a box that I got for free at the dump. I just dressed that up with a few Dollar Tree letters and a little piece of wood, and just stamped on that piece of wood and made another little hideaway table. So that is how these more farmhouse French country ones came out. So here is a look back at some of those, with the cheese box and just with a piece of wood, with the bee over the stripe, with the blue stripe in the back, with green coastal. So here's a look at 6 or 7 of them. And then that takes me on to a stool I found at the dump, and it had a very old tapestry, which I removed, and then just put a new piece of the batting on that and painted the legs over again with a black chalk paint. And then all I did was have my husband get me a piece of wood to put on top of this and add the foam and the batting, and then just took a piece of some check fabric that I had in my stash that was a really nice sturdy upholstery type fabric, and just stapled that on and made that into a new stool. And these are great for either your feet to put as a stool or as a little seat somewhere to sit on if the base of them is sturdy enough, as this one is. And then that takes me on to something a little bit quick and easy that anybody can do. And that is, if you have some that you already like, just take some twine, wrap it around, and add a shelf. And then once you have that shelf on there, you can decorate that any way that you like. You can do both of the rungs on the bottom with that, or you can add wood, basket, any number of things to create something different. This very rustic stool was found at the dump. Again, I had my husband cut that. I painted the base in this gorgeous green. I distressed it back to the white, and then I added a dark wax to bring out that color. And I simply waxed over the top and then used an old crate stencil. And I have this in my entryway, and I absolutely love it. This is definitely more my vintage style. And don't forget, before I continue, to hit that subscribe button so you can get more creative ideas. Now, this next one is just a simple child stool that you would climb up on. That was free, and that was just kind of ugly. So I just painted that and gave that a nice good coat. And then it already had a chunk missing where the knot of wood was, but that was fine. I just distressed it. And then I took the Whispering Willows IOD stamp and just added some transfers, not stamp, but transfers here and there on that with some of the sweet little woodland animals. And then there was also a mushroom and some other things on a pad of paper that I had gotten at the dollar store. It came with a bunch of different woodland animals as well. So I just cut those out and decoupaged them on to add to that woodland feel. And this was for my granddaughter, so she would be able to climb up on that. And these come in very handy, especially if you do have a child or a grandchild, to get up to the sink, wash their hands or what have you. And so that, I think, came out very, very sweet. And then I was fortunate enough to get this adorable pair of stools at the dump and decided to actually not keep the stool portion, but to take them apart and only to keep the top, which looked like little hat boxes to me. They were very well made. They had nice leather straps on them, and I thought they were already quite a lovely color. I cleaned them up and decided that I would embellish them with the IOD transfers. I just cut up several and just attached them the way that I liked them. That's the wonderful thing about transfers. And then I went ahead and added wallpaper to the interior of these, and I think they came out lovely. And then I found one of the industrial metal stools at the dump that was definitely worse for wear, but hey, it's metal, so I thought this would make a great base. I just sanded and cleaned up some of that the best that I could and took out some Rust-Oleum spray paint in black and covered that entire stool with a couple of coats of that. And this one had a pretty good shine on it, but I thought that that might be best to just make that nice and clean and new looking compared to what it did look like. And then I did go ahead and add a clear coat to that as well. And then went into my stash of beautiful barn wood, because this is a what wood you make video, so we need to add wood to this. We added that to the top of the stool to create a desk. And then when I was at this dump, I also had found a chair to go with this desk and just created the two together, and I think that they came out absolutely wonderful. So that is my 17 stools that I have created for you, one form or another. So I am really hoping that you got some really good ideas and that you will have fun shopping at yard sales or thrift stores or whatever and picking up a stool to flip for yourself. Please leave me a comment. Let me know which is your favorite. Don't forget to check out the playlist in the description box of all the other creators. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.